Hey, what's up, guys? Marco Flores here with Nerd in the Bay. I'm back with the Quiet Council. Well, I'm actually -1 because the guy hasn't read yet, Joel. So we're doing this one by one. Fan favorite Jayson is here to discuss his thoughts and feelings about the number twos. So we're gonna start off with X-Men number 2. So Jayson, what'd you think of number 2?
Hey, thanks for having me back, Mark. Well, with X-Men, I was coming into the Dawn of X series. X-Men was, I had the highest hopes for that one because that's Hickman's book. He's continuing the writing, but so far, it's kind of been a disappointment, I guess, for the flagship title of it. What I was hoping is that this main comic book, the flagship issue of the Dawn of X, would be the one that would carry the storyline through the most. But so after the events of X-Force, where the execution happened, I was hoping that they would pick up from that and show what the effects or the ramifications of that on the island. You know, how are they bringing Professor X back? You would think that the Quiet Council would have met to go over how they would deal with the fact that the Professor X was killed, or they would focus on the Five and see, you know, how do they go about bringing Professor Xavier back. The big question is who installs the psyche of Professor X into the body
If it's not him,
if Professor X is not there. So that's all the big questions, and I wanted to see that storyline progress in X-Men being the flagship again title of Dawn of X, but instead we get to see, you know, the Summers family again. Now that it was a good story, but again, it didn't continue the main story, which is what I really wanted out of the X-Men title, the X-Men. So again, what I expected out of the flagship title out of the Dawn of X is for that particular title to carry the main storyline of the Krakoa. So although I appreciate the dynamic again between Scott Summers and his kids, you know, you never saw them before actually. Rachel and Kid Cable especially together. I don't think we ever saw them together, especially with their father, and then calling them dad and having the sibling dynamic. That was interesting to see, but again, I really was expecting it to pick up right after again, especially because of the cliffhanger that happened in X-Force and X-Men being the issue being released right after that. I was expecting for them to pick up from that cliffhanger and see what the ramifications were on the island of Krakoa. But the story was good, but it's just not what I'm expecting so far from X-Men.
Yeah, so I guess from what it feels like timeline-wise is like X-Men number 2 is behind what's going on now with X-Force and with X-Force number 1 and New Mutants and Fallen Angels, I believe, I want to say. But what's going on with X-Force number 1 after in the cliffhanger of Xavier being killed? X-Men number 2 seems like it was like not like a field trip, but it was like a family trip to this other island that popped up.
It was literally a trip because you got Scott Summers talking about, I wish I could take you to this Paradise Island.
Yeah, you guys want to go on a trip?
So on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it as a standalone issue, but in terms of continuation, it didn't really do that. But it looks, I'm verging ahead here, but like it looks like number 3 may get back on track of what's actually going on right now with the whole Xavier thing and the resurrection. Spoilers if you haven't read it, but I mean, if you're watching this video,
spoiler alert,
you should be reading these issues already. But just in case you guys aren't aware. X-Men number 2, cool standalone issue, but it didn't. Again, I agree with Jayson. It didn't really continue on with what's really going on with House and Powers and the foundation of what's going on with like the Dawn of X lineup. So it was cool on its own, but I agree with Jayson in terms of X-Men number 2.
But I'm interested in seeing where this particular storyline of Oraco is going, Krakoa and Kokoro, what is it called now?
I think it was Arako.
Kokoro and Arako make Okara, right? That's how it is.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in where the storyline goes and how it ties into what happened at the dawn of time with Apocalypse and his horsemen, and how the island split and now it's back together. I am interested in seeing it, but I wasn't interested in seeing it at this moment because I really wanted the execution of Xavier to go on, and then this story to come on later down the line. But I was surprised that they're touching on this story that they highlighted in the Powers of X, House of X series with the that Red Diamond news from Sinister.
Bar Sinister.
Bar Sinister. They hinted at this storyline, but I wasn't expecting it to come to head this early. But it's interesting. I thought it was a really interesting choice where they had how they had the islands merge. That was kind of uncomfortable. But
who's the male? Who's the female?
That is true. Who is the male and who is the female?
Right? Oh man, yeah. They literally saw like the birds and the bees right in front of them.
That's true.
Oh man.
Hey, speaking before we leave on X-Men, I did want to touch on one thing that's been bugging me, but it's the art. The art of X-Men, and I've never seen Francis, I think that's his name, Francis Yu's art, but the art in Powers of X and House of X was amazing. R.B. Silva and Pepe Larraz, they were awesome. It made the story, and it added to Hickman's writing, and I was assuming that they would bring one of them over to team with Hickman, especially this is Hickman and this is his flagship title. Again, you would think they would maintain one of those artists, but no. But we have this Francis Yu, but some of his drawing is just lacks depth. And I think, and we talked about this earlier. There's this one page in particular. I think it's the second or third page in the comic book where they're in their house. The Summers kids are in the house with Scott, and then there's one panel of Rachel looking straight at you. There's one and then followed by a panel of Cable looking straight at you. There's no background. The background is blank, and there's no depth to the drawing. It looks like a assignment that you give a grade school kid to draw your own little profile.
Face portraits and stuff.
No depth in the eyes, no depth in the face, and there's this other panel I think where he draws them looking directly 90 degrees at you. It's a direct profile. All three characters, I think they're in the ship flying to Krakoa. So it's just it's just disappointing. After you get the artwork of Silva and Larraz heading into this.
As soon as you pointed that out before, I started to see that. Like when I was reading, I was like, okay, that's what she's talking about like just the face, and you're just the face is looking straight at you or at the 90-degree angle. It's like, okay, I'm starting to see that. But when it's like more wide shots, it looks much better than that compared to that. So, yeah. Art-wise, it's not so much of an issue for me, but like I can see where Jayson's coming from when it comes to Francis Yu. But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about let's talk about Excalibur 2. You read Excalibur 2? Okay. So what'd you think so far? Oh yeah, you had a big deal about this one too.
I'm trying really hard to like Excalibur, but I can't just yet. And part of it was the writing. And I think the writing was just choppy. It didn't flow. The characters were out of character for me. You have, for instance, you have Gambit. Gambit's supposed to be this, the badass guy, right? Yeah. The bad guy. He spends 90% of this comic whining about being protective about Rogue. Yeah. Quick making jokes, quick making fun of her. I was like, are you kidding me? So the writing just didn't make sense. And for another example, they're being chased by these the evil mermaids or something like that.
They can't go on land.
Yes, they're attacking the ship, and all of a sudden, Betsy swims. Swims in the ocean against these mermaids. Somehow she outswims these mermaids. I don't know how she does that, but she swims on the earth, mermaids. Then she hops on a rock, and she goes, "Well, you can't get me here because I'm standing on a rock." But like 10 minutes before that, they're jumping into the ship, attacking them. I had flashbacks of Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. I have the high ground. You can't get me. So it was I don't know.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. I got
it was just really choppy, and especially for someone that I read Excalibur when it came out in the original series, but I wasn't a huge follower, so I don't know much of the story. I do know that they lived in a lighthouse, but to the people that don't know the background of Excalibur, you're like, why are they going to this lighthouse?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and it's the explanation, and it seemed rushed. The story seemed really rushed, and the writing was choppy. So it was hard for me to read. But the thing that pains me a lot is, like I don't like Francis Yu's art. The art in this episode, in this Excalibur, is the best, I think, out of all the Dawn of X titles. And it hurts me that I like the art so much, but I don't like
the writing.
Don't like the writing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking back about number 2, and it's like, okay, yeah, Gambit was a little whiny, a little bit protective about with Rogue being in a comatose state. You have Betsy outswimming mermans or mer monsters, and then again, you were saying about the high ground. Yeah, I was starting to see all that stuff. Right. I'm still wondering what Apocalypse is doing in terms of this group. Like, of course, everybody they'll trust him, but in one sense, like he's having JoJo or like JoJo, the Jubilee's baby, and then Shogo. Thank you. Yeah, Shogo, and then the other instance is like either like do the thing or like was that Jubilee was like. I think everybody had like like this thing in their head or this image in their head that Apocalypse is finding some timing to attack them, and it looks like it's being perceived as it is being attacked by Apocalypse. But it's like, no, Apocalypse just has Shogo, and it's like, here, I'm giving you Shogo. What are you doing? And everybody's like all defensive about him being there. But like, of course, it's Apocalypse. We're like, I think me and Jayson are thinking like he's gonna turn at some point, but like, is it gonna be now? I'm thinking maybe like a little bit later, but not now. But the characters are like, they're just super defensive, even though they all agreed, shaking hands with all the the X-Men villains to live on this island, peacefully and stuff. So I did enjoy Excalibur 2 more than number 1. Still wondering what we're going to be doing with magic in terms of with the mutant island and just mutants in general. But I'm enjoying this number 2 a little bit more. But it's hilarious to hear about the choppy writing, because then as Jayson explains it, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
And speaking of Shogo, Jubilee too is supposed to be this really tough girl, and throughout the whole comic, she's like, "Where's my baby? Where's Shogo?
I gotta leave. I gotta.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta get Shogo. I keep leaving her with leaving him with strangers, but I keep worrying about him.
Yeah, and then Apocalypse has Shogo.
It was Gambit whining about people making fun of Rogue, and Jubilee worrying about Shogo. Yeah. That took up like half of the comic. And I have no idea what Kitty Pryde was doing in this one. All of us, she pops up and then she leaves. Yeah. All of us, she just mysteriously leaves.
Well, she was the ship guide, and then they wanted to go on the lighthouse.
We got them to the rock, and then I'm out of here.
Time to go Uber somebody else.
It's that kind of writing of, there's just no flow to it.
Okay. So
I'm really trying to like this title, but
okay.
So far, not so much.
All right.
But I do like the art.
Yeah, the art is good. Okay, so as we're talking about Kitty Pryde, Marauders number 2 comes into play, and for me, it's one of my high point books. When I think about it, like what are we talking about in terms of Marauders 2? Do you remember?
Marauders 2 picked up the story of Kitty, of course. Oh no, I'm sorry, Catherine. Catherine. And actually, I liked it because it highlighted the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
So it was the dynamics of the Hellfire Club. So I do like it. When the Dawn of X titles were previewed, and they gave us a hint of what is coming out, this one was the one I was like, what? Like, come on, pirates.
Yeah.
Pirate ship is like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
So I didn't have really high expectations for this one, but this one is becoming one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and it's primarily because of Kitty Pryde. So Kitty it's different. She's younger, or they're writing her as younger.
Yeah.
She's not the professor, that's
Headmaster,
leading headmaster
yeah.
or leader of the
Yeah.
X-Men. She seems like she's a lot younger, which I like.
Like go free. Because
Yeah.
she can't really enter in this paradise. Right?
Exactly, and she has a major chip on her shoulder because she can't travel through the Krakoan gates. I like that. I do like that they have Lockheed back.
Yeah.
And Lockheed teaming up with Pyro. That's ingenious.
That's
where
a tag team I didn't expect to like.
That works. Where Pyro manipulates the dragon fire.
Yeah.
And I do like the way that you're seeing the dynamics of the Hellfire Club. So it looks like Kitty or Catherine Pryde is going to be the Red Queen. Is it? She's the Red Queen.
Or the Red King.
Or the Red King.
Yeah.
Or the Red Leader of the Red
House,
I guess you could say.
Yeah.
House of Red.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, I guess does that make her the third member on the Quiet Council for the Hellfire?
It's just the fact that she can't enter.
Right, and that's
NPC.
interesting because she's going to be sitting on the Quiet Council, yet she can't enter Krakoa's gates for some reason.
Oh, but we do fast forward to the end of the issue where it delegates the bishops and the stuff like that. So maybe since Kate can't enter, maybe she can delegate somebody to sit in that seat, for her, since she has to be outside.
I hope not, though. I want to see the interaction between Catherine Pryde and Xavier and Magneto, just because of her attitude that she has, the huge chip on the shoulder that she has. So I'd be interested. Yes, I'll be interested to see how what she has to say during these Quiet Council sessions, which we haven't seen yet. I'm hoping to revisit that dynamic of where they get the Quiet Council together, and deal with things like the execution of Xavier or dealing with the attack on Krakoa and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, fast forward again, I think they'll start showing that in the threes. I don't know exactly which one. Maybe X-Men it will be X-Men number 3 because the cover is Cyclops and White Queen.
Emma Frost.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry with names. Cyclops and Emma Frost, like on dinosaurs, like riding them and such. So I think you'll see the council in that, and maybe a little bit of flirting between Jean Grey and Emma Frost, because there's this whole big thing on our internet, like, as they were celebrating in the House of X or the Powers of X, like you see like Jean Grey and Cyclops, they're celebrating. Oh, but there's Logan there too. Like, they're saying, Logan's Cyclops' boyfriend, sort of thing. Like they're joking around with it. Like, and then like Emma Frost and Jean Grey is like, okay, well they have that little smirk against each other. It was like, it's like sexual tension sort of thing. So it's like, okay, it's love everybody in this Paradise
Island love too. Everyone's in love.
Yeah, I just love
Krakoa.
everyone because that's what Nightcrawler deemed, right? For
Yes.
his laws, make more mutants.
Yeah, make more mutants.
Maybe not in that sense. Maybe it was more of the 5
Yes.
make more. But it was cool to see. It was cool. Actually, it's more interesting to see that Kitty and Emma getting along to this point.
Yes.
Because they were against each other and astonishing. Really bad, pretty bad. Kind of more along the lines of like Jean Grey and Emma Frost along that type of rivalry. But you were seeing that in astonishing. And here, they're just like they're helping each other. They're willing to do whatever it takes for this thing that I think Emma has this grand plan or whatever she thinks can do to help out the mutants in that sense. So they gave her Emma gave the team like a big old boat, bigger than the one Kitty stole. Everybody has their own rooms. The refugees have it's almost like an X-Mansion inside of the ship.
True.
Sort of thing, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see them getting along more with Kitty and Emma. I think what they get they get caught up that Xavier died, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Emma.
they did, right?
Emma told them.
Yeah,
I think Emma
Xavier
Frost
died.
told them that Xavier died, and
Yeah.
I think Aurora. Their reaction was better than what Scott. The reaction in X-Men, but
Yeah.
so they took a while to pause, and I think Aurora said, trust in the five.
Yeah,
which,
trust in the five.
which was a good line. I like that
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
But
So-
again, I am interested to see. I really hope they go back and discuss and touch on how the process which they're going to go through to bring Xavier back.
Yeah. So,
But speaking of Aurora, I do like the interaction. I love
Yeah.
that they have her on the team.
Yeah.
She is like the elder statesman.
and then she can go in between like being on the ship and then being inside the
Right.
island.
Yeah. So I like her interaction with Kitty. Aurora's like a almost like a mother figure I think to her,
Yeah.
but you could see Aurora kind of loosening up on the ship as well. She is no longer the headmistress of the Xavier schools and a leader of the X-Men as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to see her in that role.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. And then they finally link up with Bishop, and then that's when they get updated of what's going on. But yeah.